Fever fans went into last season with real expectations. The roster had talent, the energy around the franchise was finally building, and it felt like Indiana was ready to turn a corner. Instead, a wave of injuries hit at the worst possible time. Key pieces went down, rotations got scrambled, and long stretches of the year felt like a test of survival more than anything else. One of the absences that stung the most was Sophie Cunningham. Cunningham didn't just disappear from the box scores, she vanished from the Fever's identity on the floor. Before she went down, she was exactly the kind of veteran presence you want next to young stars. Tough, vocal, unafraid of the moment, and able to space the floor. Then, a major MCL tear in her right knee slammed the brakes on her 2025 season and left Indiana without one of its emotional anchors. For a fan base that had already ridden out too many losing seasons, watching someone with Cunningham's motor and personality get sidelined was brutal. You could see how much her absence affected the team's edge. Those momentum-swinging corner threes, the scrappy extra possessions, the way she got in opponents' faces and lifted her teammates, all of that was gone overnight. An MCL tear is no small thing for any athlete, especially in a league where you're expected to slide, cut, and change directions at full speed. It's one of those injuries everyone around the game winces at because they know what comes with it. Surgery or long rehab, months of strength work, relearning how to trust that joint again. For a guard/wing like Sophie's, whose game is built on movement and physicality, the question wasn't just when will she be back, but will she look like herself when she returns? That's the backdrop that made her offseason so closely watched. Fever fans weren't just looking for transactions and draft picks, they were scrolling for Sophie updates. Cunningham didn't come out with big press conferences or long medical statements. Instead, she did what a lot of modern athletes do. She let people see her progress through little glimpses of real life. She stayed active with friends and family, showed up in photos and clips that had nothing to do with a trainer's table or a weight room, and let the picture of her recovery emerge naturally. Then came the viral TikToks. Those short videos have become the unofficial injury report for a lot of players, and Sophie leaned into that lane without turning it into a full-blown production. In clip after clip, fans started to notice what really mattered: how she was moving. The dancing, the jumping, the coordinated footwork. These weren't the stiff, guarded motions of someone still babying a fragile knee. They looked loose, confident, fluid. In one of the most shared videos, posted by her friend Maggie, Cunningham is seen hopping on both knees with surprising ease. It's the kind of movement you simply don't attempt if you don't trust your body. For fans with visions of her gingerly testing that right leg deep into 2026, watching her pop up and down like that was a jolt of relief. Maggie added the detail that everyone wanted to hear: Sophie's knee is recovering wonderfully. It wasn't a formal team diagnosis, but it didn't need to be. You had the visuals, you had someone close to her saying things were on track, and you had thousands of Fever fans in the comments basically exhaling at once. Those TikToks weren't just cute content, they were data points. In today's WNBA, where coverage isn't yet as saturated as the men's game, social media often becomes the first and best place fans can track a player's status. Seeing Cunningham dance, jump, and kneel without hesitation told people more about her rehab progress than any generic "she's working hard and progressing" press release would have done. Behind those few seconds of video, reports started to paint an even clearer picture. Cunningham has been pushing herself on the treadmill, not just walking, but running, building back the base you need to play big minutes in real games. There's talk of her ramping up into sport-specific drills, the lateral shuffles, defensive slides, pull-up jumpers, and quick closeouts that truly test whether a knee is ready for WNBA pace. The phrase that keeps coming up is "ahead of schedule." For a player coming off a major ligament injury, that's about the best unofficial label you can hear. It suggests not only that the medical timeline is positive, but that Sophie herself is responding well to every new load they place on that leg. Taken together, the treadmill work, the on-court drills, and the TikTok footage all point in the same direction. Barring any setbacks,
Cunningham has a real shot at being ready in time for the 2026 WNBA season, not easing in around All-Star break, not circling a return for late summer. We're talking about the potential to hit training camp looking like a full participant. For Indiana, that's huge. This is a team that needs shooting, toughness, and veterans who don't blink when games get chaotic. That's essentially Sophie's job description. She stretches the floor with her range, she's willing to guard up a position when needed, and she never seems afraid to mix it up physically. Getting that profile of player back is like instantly plugging in energy and structure to a second unit, or even a starting lineup, depending on how free agency shakes out. Because, and this is where things get even more interesting, Cunningham isn't just rehabbing an MCL, she's also sitting at a career crossroads. Her one-year deal with the Fever expired at the end of last season. That makes her an unrestricted free agent heading into 2026. No restricted rights technicalities, no matching clauses. She can talk to any team, and any team can make their best pitch without worrying about Indiana automatically stepping in. That puts a little more weight on every rehab update. For the Fever front office, watching Sophie's recovery is directly tied to tough decisions about roster spots and cap space. Do you bring her back and double down on the fit you saw before she went down? Do you let her walk and try to replace her profile with someone younger or cheaper? For Cunningham herself, the choice is even more personal. When you're coming off a major injury at her stage of career, you think about things differently. It's not just about who offers the biggest check. It's about where you'll be valued correctly, where your minutes and role make sense, where you trust the medical staff, and where you believe you can win. A fully healthy Sophie Cunningham is the type of player multiple contenders could use. A hard-nosed veteran who can hit threes, talk on defense, accept a role, and stir up the energy of a game without dominating the ball. If she's moving as well as those TikToks suggest and clearing every benchmark in rehab, you can safely assume other front offices are circling her name.
For the Fever, that means there's some urgency. Indiana fans didn't get to see a full season of what Sophie looks like fully integrated with their core. They saw flashes, and then the injury slammed the door. If the organization believes in what she brings to their locker room and to their spacing on the court, they'll have to make a real, intentional effort to keep her in the building. You can almost picture the sales pitch. We believed in you enough to give you that one-year deal. You got hurt on our watch, but we're investing in your comeback. We want you here when we take the next step. For a lot of players, that kind of loyalty matters. At the same time, Cunningham has earned the right to explore. Free agency in the WNBA is still evolving, but we're already seeing more players make empowered choices about fits and quality of life. Coming off a big injury, you weigh everything carefully. How did the organization support you during rehab? How did the coaching staff talk about you when you were out? How do you fit into their plans now that they've seen what happens when key pieces go down? There's also the mental layer of this comeback that doesn't show up in any TikTok or training update. A significant knee injury shakes your identity. For competitors like Sophie, who have been going full tilt since college and even before, being forced to sit and watch tests your patience and your sense of self. That's part of why her active social presence is more important than people might realize. She didn't retreat into total silence. She let fans see her laugh, move, be herself, even when she wasn't in uniform. That helps ease her own transition back to full competition. When the first game back comes, it won't feel like returning from exile. It will feel like the next step in a journey her supporters have been watching unfold. It also matters for the league as a whole. WNBA players don't have the same massive media machine covering every practice. If they want their stories told between seasons, they often have to tell them themselves. Sophie's decision to show her recovery in real time, not as a sob story, but as a mix of work and normal life, gives fans another thread to follow as 2026 approaches. And make no mistake, the entire league is moving into a critical stretch. The tension is higher than it's ever been. New stars are coming in. Off-season leagues, overseas play, and social media are all part of how players build value. At the same time, conversations about pay, revenue sharing, and conditions are getting louder. In that environment, every veteran who fights back from injury and reclaims a spot in the league sends a message. It shows that careers don't have to end with one bad landing. It proves that teams investing in proper rehab and support can get real returns. And it underlines that these athletes are not disposable parts, they're people whose stories extend beyond a single season. So as the countdown to the 2026 WNBA season continues, Sophie Cunningham's name should be right near the top of the list of players to watch. Not because she's dropping 30 a night, that's never been her role, but because her journey checks all the boxes that matter in this moment. She's a hard-working veteran who had a promising run with the Indiana Fever cut short. She suffered a serious MCL tear, attacked the rehab, and now showing the kind of movement on social media that gives real hope she'll come back as herself. She's putting in the quiet hours on the treadmill and the targeted drills that most fans never see. She's due to hit unrestricted free agency at exactly the moment her health appears to be turning the corner. For Fever fans, the hope is simple, that the clips of Sophie dancing and hopping are the prelude to a season where she's back in that jersey, jawing at opponents and knocking down jumpers like nothing ever happened. For the rest of the WNBA, her story is a reminder of how many layers there are to this league beyond the headline stars. Not every comeback will go viral, not every rehab will be ahead of schedule, but when a player like Sophie Cunningham turns a devastating injury into a platform for visibility, resilience, and maybe even a better contract, it's a win not just for her or one franchise, but for the idea that this league takes care of its own and that its veterans still have chapters to write. We won't know for sure how ready she is until training camps open and preseason games tip off. We won't know what jersey she'll be wearing until pen hits paper on a new deal. But from everything we've seen, on treadmills, in gyms, and yes, on TikTok, Sophie Cunningham's days of a sideline spectator look numbered. And that's exactly the kind of quiet, powerful comeback story a growing league like the WNBA needs heading into 2026.